I'm Dee Dee, and this is Randy, and we're here at Frederick County Animal Control with some adoptable animals we would like to show you today to see if any of them might make a nice match for your family. Our first guest is Lady, and Lady is a domestic shorthair brown tabby cat. She is only 6 months old, so she is probably going to be a full-sized cat, not as petite as she appears to be right now. And she came to us because the family that found her has other cats. They have a dog. They found her 3 months ago, and for some reason they're allergic to her and they don't have allergy problems with their other pets. So they brought her in hopes that we would find her a permanent home. And we have her color coded as green, which means that she is active. She, you know, it looks all wonderful and comfortable over here, but Randy has a gift at keeping them from leaping into the ceiling tiles and crashing into the camera. So that's definitely what she would do if she could. And also she's a kitten, so 6 months old have a lot more energy than they will later in life. But even compared to other kittens, she's a pretty active, playful girl. She purrs constantly. She loves everyone. She wants people to interact with her. She likes getting out of her cage. So she's a very forward cat, as they would say in horses. And we hope that she finds somebody who will be a good match for her. And it's nice to get a kitten in the winter when you are able to be inside and pay a lot of attention to them. And they're not very common. So there are probably only 5 to 10 kittens in the shelter and in our foster homes right now. And as you all know, in the spring, we'll have over 1,000. So if you were thinking about a kitten but didn't want to wait till spring, then Lady might be your chance. We're back with our next guest. This is Olive. Olive is a domestic short-haired gray tabby, and she's between 1 and 2 years old, as most of our feline guests today are. And this is a pretty typical age that stray cats end up being brought to the shelter. When kittens are stray, it's not uncommon for people to take them in, decide if they want to keep them, or even find people who do want to keep them, because the little kittens outside alone pull on their heartstrings and they can tell that someone should be caring for them and isn't. But once cats are adult size, it's a little harder to tell if someone owns the cat or not. When the cat's very friendly and approaches people willingly, people just assume, well, he must live somewhere in the neighborhood. And then eventually they realize that no one is taking care of the cat, and typical of the weather that we've had recently, people realize that they are either going to have to let the cat come in the house or bring the cat to the shelter. And in Olive's case, they brought her in hopes that we would either find her owner, if she has one, or be able to find her a new home, and that's exactly what we hope to do. Cat colors, as you know, I'm very interested with the genetics of cat colors, and they really don't matter to the cat's personality. But this cat in particular, the reason we call her a gray tabby is because she doesn't have brown fur or black fur. And that's something people often don't know when they lose their cat, and they might list her as tabby or tiger striped or gray and white even. And if someone were to call us and say, hey, I lost my gray and white cat, we very well might not match this cat to that description, and we might not call and say we think we have your cat. So we do recommend that people come to the shelter in person as often as possible when they're missing a cat. And if you put in a lost report, please send us a picture, because even if it's a picture from a distance or the cat is part of the background in a family picture, we can crop that out, and it really helps us to determine if cats that come into the shelter are a possible match, so we can let you know to come look. So if you are missing a cat, please check at the shelter. If you aren't missing a cat because you need one, then we can help you out. And Olive is here and waiting. Our next guest is Sylvia, and Sylvia is brown tabby and white. She has a very beautiful color of eyes that is not too common in cats. It's almost green, but it's really creamy color, so she's very pretty and a very sweet cat. And Sylvia is also between 1 and 2 years old. She is a female cat that came to us as a stray, just the same situation as our last guest. One of the things about Sylvia is that she has a very plush coat, and some people think that that is because she lived outside. What determines a cat's coat are many factors, but the two most important are how much light there is during the day, and that means outdoor light. You can't make a cat get a bushy coat by turning the lights off in the house and making them think it's winter. Their body's too sensitive for that. And you can't, unfortunately, keep the lights on all winter to keep them from shedding. That doesn't work either. But that is factor number one, is how much light there is during the day. And factor number two is genetics. Some cats have soft, plush double coats. Some cats have long, sparse coats. And some of that you have no control over when you adopt a cat or kitten. The problem for people who are concerned about shedding of cats is that all kittens have baby fur and you can't tell which adult coat they're going to get. So the nice thing about adopting an adult is that you know up front what kind of coat they're going to have and how much they're going to shed, which you can tell, obviously, by petting them and holding them, especially if, like me, you're wearing a dark color and the cat has a lot of light fur. Now, shedding is not exactly what people who are allergic to cats are allergic to. So to compound deciding what kind of coat you would like your cat to have is understanding that the things that humans are allergic to are proteins in the cat's saliva. And since cats groom themselves all over, every hair on their body has probably a little bit of saliva on it. And when you inhale hair that has shedded and is blowing around, that's when you have allergic symptoms. So a couple things you can do are, number one, if you're allergic to cats, talk to your doctor before you get one. Number two, if it's a mild allergy and you choose a cat that sheds very little and you vacuum a lot, then you may be able to minimize those symptoms with your doctor's instructions and allergy medicine that's infrequent and safe for you to take. A lot of times when people adopt cats from us, they don't believe that they're allergic to cats, and they will find out that they're only allergic to one particular one. What we recommend in that case is having the cat professionally groomed in the case that, like Sylvia, the cats come from outside. She could have plant matter on her, she could have perfume from some other person, she could have anything on her coat that is going to remain on her coat until she sheds in the spring, unless she is bathed properly. So that's another avenue you can take if you're not usually allergic to cats and you find yourself sensitive to one particular cat. But it is possible to be allergic to one and not others. So it is something to think about before you get a cat, because it is one of the reasons that cats lose their home, like Lady did. Our next guest is Baxter, and Baxter, as you can plainly see, is a short-haired black cat. He's only 11 months old, but he also came to us as a stray. He's not neutered, so we don't know if he had a home, but he's quite friendly, so we know at least that he was familiar with people and cared for by people. He is young enough to still have that enticing kitten way. He's going to be playful and affectionate and interested in learning all about his new home, but he's old enough that you're not going to have to worry about drapery climbing and earring eating and the kind of things that tiny kittens do and need to be supervised to prevent. We still recommend when you get any cat that you start out in the bathroom so they can feel safe before they explore the entire house, and so that they have a place to get to know you, so that when they are exploring the entire house, if something startles them, they would come looking for you because they've built that trust in you from the short time that they were confined closely. A lot of times people are reluctant to do that, but if Randy were to let this kitty jump off his lap right now in this room, you would not see him anymore. He would be over the wall and into something else because he doesn't know us. Yeah, as Randy said, with the parakeets. He doesn't know us, so he has no reason to come to us when given the choice of many things to do. But if Randy spent time with him every day doing this, then it would be different. He would choose Randy's company over other things to do because he would know it was rewarding and safe. If you are interested in adopting a cat, we do have plenty at the shelter. We take in over 5,000 animals a year, close to 6,000 actually, and most of them are cats. Half of the cats are stray and half of the cats are owned cats that are given up. So we have quite the selection for you. If you are not ready to adopt a cat at this time, we totally understand. There are a bunch of things you can do to help the shelter, but what you could do to help Baxter is to, at the end of the show, go to the Pet Pals link, share that with friends, or you can go to petfinder.com, look up Baxter's profile, and put that on your Facebook page. Our next guest is Gambit, and Gambit is again between 1 and 2 years old, found cat, and although he appears to be a short-haired black cat, and that he is a little bit unique because his coloring, all cats have a genetic tabby pattern underlying whatever color is on top of that genetically. Doesn't matter to their personality. But he's very pretty because you can actually see his tiger stripes across his chest, on his tail, and on his shoulders, which if the light hits him right, makes him a pretty striking cat. His yellow eyes also accentuate that. And a lot of times I think it's funny that we talk about what the animals that we're showing you look like when you're looking right at them on camera. But it is important to have some kind of connection with an animal to get you to come into the shelter and see if your personalities click. So one of the things we use is what they look like, breeds they appear to be, unique things about them, in case any of these things intrigue you, remind you of another cat you knew and liked, or in any way inspire you to come by the shelter and find out more. If you are interested in adopting any of the guests that you have seen today, you can make a phone call, ask more questions, you can email us, but really the best thing to do is come to the shelter because we get an average of 15 new animals a day. You never know who's going to be here from day to day, and you may come by the shelter and decide, even if you don't want to adopt, that there's something else you have that we need, and those things are towels and linens and pet food, pet supplies of any kind. We take old aquariums, even if they won't hold water, especially if they have lids that fit and other kind of pet care equipment, because we never know what's going to be in the shelter. So we will be back after a short break. Poor little Gambit, he was a little shy to come up here. And we will show you some more animals available at Frederick County Animal Control.
Need an idea for your child's birthday party? Look no further. At the Middletown Rec Center, we have all your birthday party needs. We have a full-size gymnasium, our large rec room, sports equipment, and many birthday party theme ideas. Each party includes crafts, games, and a story. Please call 301-600-1646 for more information.
We are back with Checkers, and Checkers was on the show last month. So we are back because Checkers went to his new home, and we did, as I tell you, we always do. We took 4 applications. We talked to each family about puppies and what puppies do and what puppies need, and leaving them home alone for 12 hours a day just doesn't work. And we found a great family, and they were not interested in using crate training, which you don't have to do. You don't have to use a crate to train a puppy. But that's the same exact thing as saying you don't have to use a crib to raise an infant. The reason almost everyone does is because it allows you to be able to sleep soundly, because you know the baby can't roll around and get somewhere you don't want the baby to be. So they brought him back because he chewed up some valuable stuff. So Checkers is back with us, a little smarter, a little better manners on leash, a little more experience because he was out and about in a family with kids, so he got used to all that. He still sits when we ask him to, and he still likes it here just fine. But of course, we would like for him to find a permanent home that understands he's a big puppy. And we keep him in a dog run here for most of the day and all of the night. He takes like 3 to 5 walks a day. When volunteers come in, he gets exercise in the yard. And when people like Randy are here, he gets practice earning treats for offering some polite behavior. But puppies take a lot more than that to raise them to live in your house and become part of your family, which is what we dream for all the puppies, and of course what makes their life long and healthy. So Checkers is back for another round, and I read some research by Gary Petronik the other day. He's a veterinarian who does a lot of research on shelter issues like hoarding and shelter relinquishment. And what he said was one of the studies that he did about 15 years ago said that 20% of shelter animals are returned to shelters. So we're pretty happy that our rate of return here in Frederick is way below that. But if you think about it, the 2 million dogs that end up in shelters every year, if 20% are returned, that's 1 in 5 or 40,000 dogs a year. So 40,000 dogs a year are placed in a home that doesn't keep them and brings them back just from shelters as a source alone. What we don't know is if that happens more frequently with some other group, but it doesn't matter for our purposes because we need to make sure that we prepare people for the commitment of having a dog. And Checkers is a great dog with lots to offer, but he's a puppy and he's big. So he is going to need somebody, and we're going to do the same thing again, take 4 applications, sit and talk to you and hope that you understand that he has a short attention span, which will change, and he has a need to physically expend energy twice a day, and that will tire you out as well as it will tire him out. You also might want to think about doggy daycare. It's a great opportunity that we have now that we didn't have when I was growing up, to drop your dog off at a kennel, trying to figure the light out. Drop your dog off at a kennel where he can play with other dogs a couple times a week, and that will do some of your work for you, tiring him out. So if you are interested in a puppy, and a big puppy at that, please come in and check out Checkers. What are you looking at?
Smell it.
Yeah. Our next guest is Paisley, and Paisley is a shy girl that came to us as a stray. And within 3 days of being here, she was exponentially more approachable and friendly. So we know that she's resilient and going to make someone a great dog. We suspect she lived outside, as many hounds do for their early life, especially if they're actively used for hunting. So part of what she was nervous about was doorways, lights, and slippery floors. She's conquered them all, but we do suspect that she is probably going to be overwhelmed by stairs and maybe television, but because she's so resilient, as soon as she gets accustomed to those things, she's going to bounce right back and accept those. Paisley is a puppy. She's 11 months old. We think because of her color and structure that she's part Walker Coonhound. We also think that because of her personality. There are a lot of larger coonhounds that are very vocal, and Paisley isn't, and very likely to pull on the leash, and she doesn't do that. Walker coonhounds are bred to keep pace with a more sedentary hunter, somebody who needs to go at a slower pace, somebody who needs to have the dog hang back a little, and she seems to fit that personality and physical appearance. But as we've told you many times, when we get stray dogs, we have no idea what their genetic background is. If you choose and you have a mixed breed, you can have your veterinarian do a genetic test. It's fun because it is remarkable the things that the test will tell you. Humans are biased by our eyes. 90% of her genetics have nothing to do with how she looks. But that 10% that's left is what we see first, because we're very visual, and so that's what we evaluate first. And in her, we see short coat, tricolored, long ears, probably a hound. What is funny is that some dogs that have been genetically tested, and we have not tested Paisley, that look like her will come back Beagle Weimaraner, or just unimaginable combinations that you never thought of. But then when you look at the dog, you can say, oh, I could see that. So in Paisley's case, we're assuming that she is a hound because she looks like a hound, and we're assuming Walker Hound because she acts like a Walker Hound. And she certainly has come a long way. So we know that she's going to, she's so young, she's going to make someone a really great pet. If you are interested in Paisley or you think you know someone who is, then please let us know. But like with all of our strays, if you know someone who's looking for a missing dog, please let them know about Paisley. It will never cease to amaze me the number of people who lose really nice, mannerly dogs and do not come looking for them. We're the only shelter. We're centrally located in the county, and yet many people do not come to the shelter to find a lost pet. So we would love to increase our ability to reunite people with their pets. And certainly we would love for Paisley's owner to call and say, yes, she was my dog, I no longer want her. That makes it a little better for the people who want to adopt her to know that she is in fact homeless and that they are welcome to take her. We will spay her and microchip her so that this won't happen to her again. If you are interested in her or one of our other dogs, please come by. We are back with Tiny Tim. And Tiny Tim came to us from an owner who had several dogs, got involved with our animal control officers, and relinquished some of the dogs to us for care. And Tiny Tim is only a year old. And obviously he's a Pekingese, and he's beautiful and has the typical Pekingese personality, which means you pretty much just walk around holding him. That's what he wants, and that's what he's made for. But Tiny Tim has some particular health needs. There was a time in animal sheltering where we wouldn't be able to help a happy social puppy like Tiny Tim, even purebred though he is, because he has some medical needs that are going to require us to find just the right owner. But since 10 years ago, the numbers of animals in need of shelter services was so much higher, and the general public, people like you, were not aware of the plight of homeless animals to the extent that you are now, such that we often find the 1 in 1,000 person who is willing to adopt a lovely puppy who has some issues, and I will tell you what they are because they're rather minor if you think about the future of this puppy. So he's one. He can live 12 to 15 years as far as we know. But he has some dental disease, and that is from the care he received before coming to the shelter. So you, as his new owner, would be able to choose whether you want to go to your general practitioner vet and have his teeth assessed and maybe have him sedated, have some of them removed for his dental health. And that's common for Pekingese. It's just not common when they're 1. It usually happens when they're 5 to 10. But you might also, because there are specialists available now, you might also decide to take him to a dental specialist. We are lucky to have one in Rockville named Dr. Smith, and I'm sure there are others. Your vet can tell you about doctors in the area who specialize in this. And dental care for dogs has come a long way. Because Tiny Tim is so young, there may be an advantage to, rather than removing diseased teeth, having root canals for him. And I know that sounds silly, but Pekingese commonly need dental care when they're older. He's just going to need it earlier than most. And what I've been told, I'm not a dentist and I haven't worked for a veterinary dentist before, but if the teeth are removed, they aren't melded and bonded with the jaw, so they actually weaken the jawbone. That means that over time, he could have some loss of bone mass in his jaw. Now, if his teeth weren't being removed until he was 10 or 12 years old, then that's not a big deal because the lifespan would mean that he wouldn't suffer a lot of consequences from that. But in any event, this is a long explanation for if you want to come by the shelter and meet Tiny Tim and see if he might be a good match for you, we can talk to you about veterinarians in the area that can help you. We'll give the notes from our veterinarian to you so you can see. You can call the dental specialist, see what he says or she says, and find out if this is something that you would like to do for Tiny Tim. We would love to find the right person to take him, and I'm sure that we will, because Frederick is such a great place for homeless animals, even the ones with issues which could be expensive, but other than that, aren't very serious, and no reason for us not to try to find just the right placement for Tiny Tim.
Call first, but she's in foster, right?
Oh yeah, because Tiny Tim, Randy just reminded me, Tiny Tim's in a foster home, so now that he's doing really well, he's probably going to be here every day for you to view. But just to be sure, because his foster mom's going to take him home every night, call and make sure he's here before you come by. Save yourself a trip. If you want to come by and talk about him before you meet him, which might be a good idea because he's so cute. Once you hold him, you're going to find a way to take care of him. Then you are welcome to come anytime, of course, and we'll talk to you about his needs. But Randy's right. Call first if you want to make sure you get to see him. We are back with Sable, and Sable is a 9 or 10-year-old Pomeranian. He has a little gray hair on his face, as you can see. And Sable came to us from his owner, who has recently become disabled and isn't able to take care of her dogs anymore. So Sable also has a companion dog, Coco, who's between 3 and 4 years old. Same breed, Pomeranian. She's much tinier, and they definitely could be adopted together if you would choose to do so, but they don't need to be. And couple things you should know about Pomeranians. Though you can't see it now, they bark. Their bark is tiny and hard to hear from far away, but it certainly is frequent. They make excellent watchdogs, which is one reason that people like them. And they are a little Spitz type dog. Even though Sable's ears are not sticking up right now, they can. They need some coat care because they have the long bushy coat. And they usually, by his age, need some dental care from your vet, which is true in Sable's case. So these are all things to think about when you get a tiny dog. The advantages of a tiny dog are if you walk around the block, then you've pretty much exercised them for their 15 to 30 minutes that they need. They don't need to go jogging. In fact, if they do go jogging, you probably have to carry him for most of the way. They are certainly agile and energetic, but they're not what you would consider to be athletes. And I'm sure there are trainers with agility Pomeranians who would argue with that. But since Sable is middle-aged now, it's not time for him to start a new athletic career anyway. So if you are interested in meeting them or coming in and talking to us about other purebred dogs that we might receive in the shelter, then please let us know, because we have our wish list, which means if you've always wanted a Pomeranian or any special kind of dog or or any special kind of cat or other type of animal, please tell us, because we keep a list. We will call you. You are certainly able to pass on any individual. We are just hoping that we find the right match, and oftentimes people don't know that shelters get a number of purebred dogs and exotic pets, so that you could adopt a shelter animal rather than purchasing a pet if you want to. Not that there is anything wrong with purchasing a purposely bred animal for the reasons that you want to. That's perfectly fine, especially when you check out your sources and make sure that they're health checked and that the breeder will support you with the care of the animal after adoption with information and advice. But we just like you to come to the shelter because we have a number of animals that need homes. If you want to help out any of the dogs you have seen today, then check out the link at the bottom of your screen and pass it around so people can view this episode and other episodes of Pet Pals. You can go to petfinder.com and find beautiful portraits done by Mary Lou of our dogs and cats and other animals in the shelter that you can pass around or post on your Facebook page. And something that I've never done before on camera, but I definitely should, is to thank Richard, our cameraman, and to thank Chris and Scott and Charlie back in the studio that make this show look all fancy for you. And of course, John, who schedules it all and makes it work. And we should thank Kim and Casey for our lovely set. We used to do this, as those of you who have watched for a long time, with folding chairs and sheets for background. And now we have a pretty nice looking studio thanks to lovely volunteers. And as a matter of fact, all the volunteers, like the little Pekingese Tiny Tim, who is living with a volunteer at night, are volunteers who come in and play with the rabbits and bring them special treats. We really, at Frederick County Animal Control, appreciate all that the volunteers do. Sean gets several hundred hours of free work for the shelter, for you, work that your tax dollars do not have to pay for, to make life better for the animals, to make it easier for you to find the perfect match for you, and just to keep the shelter running smoothly. So thanks for joining us this week. Hope you will join us again next time on Pet Pals. you.